Welcome to the Will and Aaron Show with William Kramer and my co-host Aaron Bontrager, a sports show where we discuss high school local sports in South Bend and Elkhart counties, plus the NIC and NLC conferences, as well as college and pro sports. In today's first ever episode, we will preview Indiana high school football, starting with the Northern Lakes Conference, as well as Fairfield High School. Aaron will provide information on the head coach, recap last year's season, key losses, returners, and newcomers, team strategy, look at the 2022 schedule, discuss the big picture, and do a buy or sell segment at the end for each team.
First up, we have the Plymouth Rockies, coached by Adam Handley. He has an overall record of 14-26. 4 years at Wabash, and this is his first season at Plymouth. They're coming off a winless season, their worst in program history. And also, Coach John Barron stepped down after 17 years of guiding the Rockies. Their offensive numbers, they average 10 points a game, 119 rushing yards, and 88 passing yards. Defensive stats, they average 40 points, giving up 40 points a game. They gave up 223 rushing yards and 102 passing yards a game. Some key losses, they're losing about 5 two-way linemen, their starting quarterback, running back, and 3 wide receivers. Some key returners, they have Matthew McCrum, senior running back and linebacker, Michael Sheely, senior wideout and linebacker, Thad Pletcher, the starting center, who's a senior, Anthony Pope, junior offensive lineman and defensive lineman, David Sills, junior defensive lineman, and Chris Johnson, another anchor of their D-line. Their strategy, they run a basic spread attack on offense. They run a 4-3 on the defensive side of the ball. The Rockies will have a lot of players expanding their roles and taking on more snaps, both offensively and defensively. Their schedule this year, they open with really, really tough road games in East Noble, Kokomo, and Warsaw. East Noble, who went 6-3 a season ago, and beat up on the Rockies. This was the most points scored on Plymouth all year at 56. In Kokomo, in week 2, who went 8-3 in 2021, defeated the Rockies 41-6. And Warsaw, of course, is a strong conference contender this year. Really, their important games this season will be in September when they have Wawasee come visit the Rock Pile, and then they travel to Goshen to take on the Redhawks. If they can pull out these 2 games, it'll be huge to build some momentum for their offseason and future. So definitely a rebuilding process under Coach Handley. It's hard to imagine this program being at the bottom for long or struggle for long. I think the players should focus really on getting better each practice, quarter, and game. I've been a part of some losing seasons as an underclassman, and it can be very hard in every way. So I think players will hopefully focus in on buying into Coach Handley's systems. And I think that's a good strategy because he's obviously, if you look back in his coaching record, he posted a winning record in 2020, or helped Wabash get that first winning record in 2020 with 6 wins. Yeah, so it should be exciting to see the growth of this program this year under a new head coach. They have some experience. Hopefully they can build some momentum for the program. Yeah, and we'll see if they can make any noise later in the season.
So Aaron, let's do a buy it and sell question. The average win total for the first year head coaches in the history of Plymouth Rocky football is 3.6 wins. Again, we're talking about first-year head coaches. Aaron, are you buying or selling that this first-year head coach, and Adam Handley, will win more than 3 games.
I'm going to sell it because I think the conference and schedule that Plymouth has is going to be hard to make that jump in year one. I like them to get 2 wins, but hopefully they can prove me wrong. So I'm going to sell. All right, next up we have Wawasee, coached by John Ritabu, who has an overall record at 6-24. This is his 4th season at Wawasee. Last year they had a tough season with 1 win against Plymouth. They fell to Goshen by 3 points. Some offensive numbers, they average about 9 points per contest, 95 rushing yards, and 57 passing yards. Their defense allowed 37 points on average, 252 rushing yards, and 129 yards through the air. They're losing some key contributors, quarterback DB Lucas Ringler. They also are losing Dryden Hernandez, 2-way lineman that's now playing at Carthage. Nathan Larson, wideout and linebacker, who's now playing at Trine. They are, however, returning Jackson Brown, senior quarterback, Braden Kelly, junior running back and linebacker, Cameron Zimmerman, senior running back, linebacker, Hunter Tinky, who's a junior, wideout DB kick returner, and Chance Flannery, senior offense defensive lineman, kind of leads their linemen. Another important defensive returners are Aiden Merkler on the D-line, David Anderson, another senior leading the linebackers, Tinky and Brady Russell are seniors that lead the secondary. Some newcomers to keep an eye on are Derek Bontrager, who's a junior, plays wide receiver and defensive back. Lucas Linder, another junior, who's a wideout and DB as well. As far as strategy, the Warriors want to possess the football. They want to take a step in being more effective at complementary football. They run a pro-style offense, multiple formations. Their defensive system is a 4-2-5, so 2 linebackers and 5 DBs flying around to make plays. They return 6 starters. Yeah, their schedule it starts off with important games, according to Coach. They open with Tippy Valley, which is always a good setting the tone to their season. It'll tell him a lot about his team. He also mentioned to us that their conference opener versus Goshen will be a key game. And then the other 2 games, including the first 4, are huge. They could be winnable with West Noble, Goshen, and Plymouth as well. I kind of already said that. Anyways, Coach will be calling on a strong senior class and his experienced junior class to come out and leave a mark on this program. And this program hasn't had a season above 500 since 2014.
I just got to add, because I am looking at the schedule right now, Aaron. They have to win games in that first part of the season, because that back half of the schedule is brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Concord, Northridge that went to the state finals last year. Warsaw, Coach Bird is always got his teams running at a high level. And then the Panthers, Northwood, and Mishawaka with Coach Kendner. Wow.
Yeah,
that's a tough back of the end schedule there.
Yeah, the NLC slate's brutal, for sure. But I think some positives. I think this team could surprise some teams, more so in playing harder for 4 quarters. Maybe not showing up in the wins and losses, but they do have a lot of experience returning. Or I wouldn't say a lot, maybe good experience on both sides, and I think they're ready to bounce back. Listening to them in their media day, they sound like they have their mindset right. So, yeah, I'd look for them to grow on their win total, which, it's kind of saying the obvious. 1 win, I think it's doable. that they could get to that 3 wins. 4 would be probably my ceiling for this team, just because of like what you just said. The back half of their schedule is it's going to be brutal. So if they start fast, getting that 3 to 4 wins could be a real success for this team.
I will say this: if, like you just mentioned, if they can get to that 3-win total, that would actually match their most wins since 2020 when they won 3 games that year. So who knows? It might be in the bag. Have a couple more wins, more than they have in the years past.
Yeah, I think they'll need. This might be the year they have some luck on their side with just the past 2 seasons in general with COVID and the pandemic. So, yeah.
The linemen, if you look at the linemen, I think the biggest question mark to me is how are the linemen going to perform, especially the new linemen, because they're losing, as you just mentioned, they're losing 3 two-way starters. 3 two-way starters. That means offense and defense, we've got 3 new guys who are going to have to prove every night that they can perform at a high level. So to me, the biggest question mark is, can the line block? Because they got 2 guys coming back, running backs, and they both had, 200-300 yards apiece. That's nice. And then the quarterback's a senior, so he's seasoned, he's a veteran, this is not his first rodeo. So, can the linemen, the new linemen, perform along with a couple other returners?
Yeah, that's great points. I'm kind of biased being, I was undersized, unathletic lineman. But yes, football is one of the trenches, and for a lot of these teams, it's going to come down to the guys don't get all the headlines and the papers and the media. But
you're so humble.
Well, it's true. I'm only stating facts here.
So we're ready for our buy and sell. Last year, Wawasee gave up 252 yards rushing per game. Buy or sell, Wawasee will give up less than 252 yards rushing per game this year.
I'm going to buy that. I think they'll be able to strengthen their run defense. I think they should be able to improve on that average with 6 starters coming back. I think a strength of their team is their linebacking core. And then, I kind of already mentioned this. Hearing that their seniors speak at one of the media days, I guess I wasn't there, but I heard on YouTube, sounds like this group's determined to play full 4 quarters and leave a good mark on the program, help it get back and strengthen. So I'm buying. All right, next up we have the Goshen Redhawks, coached by Tom Wagaman. This is his 15th year coaching, and he has a 77-71 record. This will be his first season at his alma mater. Just a little bit about their last year, 2021. The Coach Park era ended with a 4-6 record. They won some non-conference games to start the year with Fairfield and Clay. And then they bookended their season after it's like 5 straight losses. They bookended their season with wins over Plymouth and Wawasee. Other highlights were they were within 2 scores of Concord. They played Northwood pretty tough. Offensive stats, let's see. They scored about 18 points per game. They rushed the ball about 102 yards per game, and they had 130 yards passing per game. Defensively, they gave up an average of 23 points and 205 rushing yards, 102 passing yards. Some key losses, they lost Roman Schrock, linebacker and running back. Braden Hinkle, a wide receiver. Some key returners, all-conference quarterback Quinn Bechtel is a senior, and he also plays DB. They have a couple seniors with expanding their roles. Adam Ellison leading the backfield. Noah Alford leading the wide receivers. Another important player on their O-line is Ryan Eldridge, junior who started his first 2 years, and he's also a defensive lineman. Yeah, it's funny because I just saw him. I work with his mom, and he was at our school, and he dwarfed me again, even when he was in 7th grade. So I'm glad I don't have to face him. Some newcomers to keep an eye on for the Redhawks is senior Caden Hodge, who's a defensive back, and then Max Kreider, senior wide receiver. Team strategy, so under Wagaman, they're going to run the spread attack. They'll probably spread the ball around with their running back and wideouts. They have some experienced wide receivers that are looking to make a mark. Their O-line, they have some good, solid experience up front with Eldridge, and then Sam Mosnes and Yabi Kurtz. Their defensive system, they run a 4-3, which has some experienced players as well. Schedule, they start off with facing the team down the road, down US 33 with Fairfield. They come to Goshen. But then they have an interesting matchup in week 2 with the New Prairie squad, which will be a good test for them. Other key games is Mishawaka and Northridge will be coming to Foreman Field. Those will be a good measuring stick for year 1 of the Coach Wagaman era. And then they end with some road tests with Concord, Warsaw, and Northwood in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Big picture, it's kind of exciting, I think, if you're a Red Hawk fan. You got Tom Wagaman back, a graduate. He's turned around 2 NLC teams. Can he make it a third? Can you pull that trifecta where he turned around Wawasee from 2007 to 2012? Then he took Northridge to new heights from 2013 to 2019, capped off with their first regional title in football in 2014.
And I just got to add how big that is to do. That's just not any school, Aaron. We're talking about 2 schools, and I don't want to offend anybody, but we're talking about Wawasee and Northridge. These are not known as football schools. In fact, both schools historically, if you look at their all-time record, Wawasee has lost more games than they've won. Northridge is even a more stark contrast between losses and wins. So for him to do what he did at those respective schools that you just mentioned, that's an incredible feat in itself. And I gotta say, I gotta give it to Goshen administration. This is an A+ hire. And if you're a Goshen Red Hawk fan, you have to be very excited about your future with Coach Wagaman at the helm.
Yeah, most definitely. So it'll be exciting to see the growth in year 1 and how far he'll take this program. Let's see. Yeah, I think he mentioned in the Indiana Football Digest that if everyone embraces the change, that they will be successful this year. Which I think that's true because they played some tough teams last year and they played them pretty good. Yeah, so the last sectional title for Goshen was in 2000. Their last winning season was in 2016. Like you were saying, I think they should be super excited to have Wagaman and his staff here to help restore the tradition of Goshen football. This year could be more about process than results. I could see it being that way, just like other teams that we've already mentioned. But also, I wouldn't be surprised with some of the experience and some of the, the people making the plays on this team that they could go take a step up, move to that middle tier of the conference. So I think a ceiling of 6 wins and a floor to like 3 or 4 wins is probably where I have them, just based on what I've seen on paper. Yeah, it's going to be a great to check in with this team as we go to see where they're at.
So it's time to do our buy and sell. As you mentioned, Aaron, the quarterback, senior Quinn Bechtel, threw for 1,185 yards. He threw for 10 touchdowns, also ran for 609 yards. So, let me ask you, can Quinn repeat his performance from last year again this year? Are you buying that or are you selling that?
I'm going to buy part of it. I think his passing numbers will stay about the same. I could see him even building more on that. I'm also selling his rushing yards and touchdowns, just because I think Wagaman will like to spread the ball around as far as the rushing attack. And I think teams will probably key on stopping him from getting out of the pocket. So, yeah, I think I kind of hedge my bet there. I say buy with the passing, sell with the rushing.
You can listen to the Will and Aaron Show podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Will Aaron Show. The 50th Twitter follower will receive a free shout-out from us on a future podcast. You can like the Will and Aaron Facebook page, where you can comment on your posts, message us, write a review, and share our page.
All right, next up, we're going to take a little break from the NLC and talk about the Fairfield Falcons out of the Northeast Corner Conference, the only Elkhart County team not in the NLC. Yeah, so the Falcons are coached by Matt Thacker, who's posted a 19-22 overall record. This is his 5th season at Fairfield. Last year they had a record of 4-6, but they went 3-1 in their big division of the NECC to win the title there. And then offensive numbers, the only one that I could find was they average about 18 points a game. Their defense gave up about 21 points a game, 138 rushing yards, and 86 yards through the air. Some key losses are Brandon Helms, a wideout DB, who's going to be playing at St. Francis, and Jonathan Estep, apologies if I got that name wrong, D lineman running back, who's playing at Trine this fall. Some really important returners. Of course, you got to start with Carter Kitson, senior quarterback and defensive back. And then some talented juniors, Ethan Schmucker at running back, Michael Slaybaugh, running back and DB. And then we have Alex Hoffer as the junior wide receiver. Up front, we have Brock Berkey, senior center. Dayton Lockwood, another senior up front, playing guard. And Jacob Melendez leading the defense at the linebacker position. So what kind of systems does the Falcons run? They run the flex bone attack, led by their top passer and rusher, Carter Kitson. Defensively, they run the 42 defense, and they bring back 14 players who have started games for their defense. And I forgot to mention the newcomers. They got a mix of some seniors and juniors and a pretty big sophomore class. So the future looks bright for Fairfield. Their schedule, their coach really and their athletic department really beefed up their schedule. Starting last year, they added they added South Bend Adams, and they opened with Goshen. So, yeah, I think a big picture-wise, or not big picture, big games to look at will be toss-up game at West Noble, who beat the Falcons last year. They look like they're bringing back a lot of experience and all conference players. Another big game for the Falcons will be when they travel to a younger Angola team, a team they should beat on paper. And then they get Garrett, who's trending up, and a Lakeland team who's losing 12 key players. So now big picture for Fairfield, I think they have that experience and depth to repeat as the NECC Big Division champs. Of course, staying healthy and winning those couple non-conference games will be important to see if they can post an overall winning record and build some belief, some momentum before postseason play, where they have a tough sectional, probably a really interesting sectional. I have them going around 5 to 6 wins overall, and I definitely see them repeating as the big division winners for the NECC.
So before we get into the buy and sell, it's always the same story with Fairfield. It might sound like I'm hating on them, because I'm not. I know a lot of good people over there. We all know it's a basketball school. Let's not kid ourselves, right? It's a basketball school. They live and breathe basketball. And the problem for the Falcons is it's really their conference. The Northeast, the NECC, right? It's not historically a strong conference football-wise. And Fairfield, I've been told, had a chance to get out of that conference and to join a different conference. A conference that included teams like a Jimtown, a John Glenn, Bremen, and form a new conference. Now, I don't know for 100% sure if that's true or not, but historically, Fairfield has had some pretty solid teams. If you look at the record, there were years where they go into the postseason undefeated or one loss, and there was a lot of hype, and here comes the Falcons and Fairfield, and then boom, get blown up by Jimtown. Boom, blown out by Fort Wayne Lures, blown out by Marion, fill in the blank. So yes, you mentioned that the athletic director and the head coach, they recognize they have to beef up their non-conference schedule. I think they're starting to do that. The Adams game is a good addition. They went after a 6A Southport team. Now, granted, they went 0-9 last year, but it's still a 6A school, Indy school area. I'm sure they won't be 0-9 this year. It all comes down to, winning the NECC Big Division. Whoopie-doo, great. That's awesome. But can you compete in Sectional 26 with the likes of Jimtown and Marion? That's what people want to know. And that's what they got to work towards. Can they do it this year? They got a lot of experience coming back. I like that about them. We'll have to see, though. So, okay, time for the buy and sell. Fairfield has a ton of experience coming back from a team that won 4 games last year and were competitive in some of their losses. With all of that experience and a beefed-up schedule to prepare them for Sectional 26, are you buying or selling that Fairfield will win 8 games and make it to the Sectional Championship game?
I'm going to sell that one. I think 8 games would be incredible, or 8 wins would be incredible this year. Even with their beefed-up schedule, I just don't see them making it to the championship game of their sectional unless they avoid Jimtown and Marion to the last, like their draw. It's got to go their way. But the other teams in that sectional, I think they could beat. Until they prove it, I'm going to sell that. But I'm pretty strongly believe that they'll repeat in their division, which Yeah.
If you look at Section 26, like you said, you got to hope that Jimtown and Marion are on the opposite side of the bracket. And also hope that probably Knox is on the other side. And maybe even John Glenn. And then that leaves you with Lakeland, Clay, and West Noble. Now, if that was a setup this year, okay, let's roll the dice. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a little preview to our conference realignment episode.
It could be.
Should Fairfield join a different conference, or where would you put them?
I'm going to say yes to that. Leave it at that.
All right. Now we get back to the NLC with the Northridge Raiders, coached by Chad Epley in his second year. He's posted a record of 10-5 in his 2 seasons, all at Northridge. Well, I could probably spend a whole episode talking about their magical season last year. But just to kind of recap, kind of a tale of 2 seasons, making it all the way down to the state finals. Their Class 4A state runner-up. What is quite the magical run. I can't. It's kind of surreal to even talk about it, but their overall record was 10-5. They went 3-4 in their conference. They averaged 23 points per game. They ran the ball for about 148 yards per game, and they had 132 yards passing. Defensively, they gave up an average 21 points, 137 rushing yards, and 109 passing yards. Key losses, quite a few of them, 5 players going on to college football. Linebacker, running back Ridge Howard. He'll be playing at Myrtle Beach Collegiate. Clint Walker, wide receiver, linebacker, now at Davenport. Michael Hostetler, quarterback DB, who will be playing at Hanover. Evan Carr, O-lineman at Trine. Trent Jensen, O-line, defensive lineman, also at Trine. Some key returners. You have all-state, all-conference QB Tag Gott coming back to lead the Raiders. A couple upperclassmen in the backfield, Ricky Lloyd, McLean Miller, look to lead the team as far as the running back spot. You have Harrison Kaufman, another senior running back. Jethro Hostetler, senior wide receiver. On the O-line, I would say a pretty big strength of this team. You have Wyatt Bowles, senior, plays both ways. Max Petersheim, one of the leaders on the defensive line. And then Philip Ankrum, another senior, plays both ways. And the linebacking core is led by Gott, Cade Sands, senior DB wide receiver. And then Tyrus Thomas, senior defensive back and kick returner. Newcomers, they got a strong sophomore class looking to make a name for itself as well. They run the spread with 7 starters back. Defensively, they run the 3-4 scheme with 9 key players back. Schedule-wise, the Raiders travel to Mishawaka, which I think is a pretty important game this year after Mishawaka took it to them, wore them out last year. A lot of tough home games this year, so the upper echelon of the conference comes to Middlebury. Will Northridge be seen as the hunted or the hunter in this conference? I think that's an interesting storyline. Will teams circle them after they had a kind of an okay regular season and then had a magical postseason? I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Will Northridge maintain that focus, or or trying to kind of clear what happened last year and try to build a whole new season.
Well, from what I've heard and been reading, Coach that's been his focus. That's his message to his team. That what they did last year was last year. They have not accomplished anything this year, and so their focus, their motivation should be solely focused on 2022.
Yeah, definitely. I think if they can buy into that, that'll serve this team well as they look to kind of put up a complete season together in the regular season and maybe make another run in their sectional. I think another big picture question is, can the backs help Gott with the rushing load? He's young, but he carried the load for this team, took them to state. Will the defense step up in NLC play? They gave up quite a few rushing yards, and I think with any team in this conference, you got to stop the run, really.
Well, and I'm going to add this. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but if you look at their sectional, Northwood is looming, and we haven't gotten to Northwood yet, but they have a lot of key skilled players coming back. They got a nice receiving core, quarterback, threw for a lot of yards last year. So my question is, how well will the Northridge secondary hold up when it comes to November if they have to face a team like a Northwood or any other team that can pass? Because that Northridge is going to be pretty solid probably against the run. Can they hold up, the secondary hold up in the secondary?
Yeah, definitely. I think they have those returners, so hopefully that experience of getting beat by some teams pretty badly like Concord and Mishawaka and Warsaw. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and Northwood, of course. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it'll be exciting to see how that shakes out. So my big picture, I think they're going to stay in that mix of the upper part of the conference. I see them improving to a 5-win season, regular season. Or I'm sorry, a 5-win conference season and maybe a 7 wins overall. I think they should beat their non-conference teams this year. Elkhart will be a tough game. Be good early test too. Yeah, so I think I like them to improve their regular season win total. I think they have that momentum, and sounds like I'm sure the players and coaches are motivated to make it another historic season.
So I gotta say, I have been to every single state championship game in football since 1997. Have not missed one. And over the years, I always enjoy when local teams make it down there. I think the community carries support, and it was such a neat thing to watch. Middlebury, the support from there, the excitement level. I was at that Northridge New Prairie game, and it was just an electric environment. I know how excited you were. I mean, you're a Northridge grad, and it was a miracle run. So it's time for a buy and sell. Northridge last year in the regular season won games they should have won. They lost games they probably should have lost. But something clicked starting in the postseason, and that Northwood win in the playoffs was monumental. Now, Northridge fans will remember that Northwood actually smacked Northridge around 42-8 in the regular season. And then in the sectionals, it was a complete reversal, where Northridge dominated that game. I think that stunned a lot of people, including myself. It probably surprised even some of the Raider faithful. After the Leo game, people were like, okay, well, maybe we can have a little more belief. But everyone knew what was looming ahead, and that was New Prairie Cougars. Now, as I mentioned, I was at the game. It was an incredible atmosphere. Given the historical run last year, Aaron, are you buying or selling that Northridge, your Raiders, will repeat as Sectional 18 champions?
I gotta buy it. I can't go against my Raiders.
Of course you gotta buy it. They won't accept you back at Middlebury if you say no.
Probably true. If they, yeah. Yeah, I like them to repeat. Obviously, Northwood is looming through the conference and postseason. Couldn't be it any other way if you're from Middlebury. And also St. Joe, I think we'll get to them in a future episode. I think St. Joe's a team that will surprise a lot of people. They could win that sectional. I think we both agree that Northwood, Northridge on Tier 1 for that. And then you have St. Joe by itself and then some rebuilding teams in the sectional. So I'm going to buy it.
Aaron buying, and yes, you're right, two words for you. Coach Downey, wow, he's going to make a huge impact. We'll get to him later. I want to mention one more thing before we move on to our next team, the Northwood Panthers. Northridge has an opportunity to do something that has not been done since 2013 through 2015, which is, Aaron, have 3 straight winning seasons in a row. In fact, the record in the history of Northridge is they've won 4 straight. They had 4 straight seasons of winning seasons from 1974 to 1971. And so that's an amazing thing to be able to say, wow, if they can have a winning season, which I think they will have tied for the second longest streak in the history of Raider football. And then in 2023, they'll have opportunity to tie the all-time record of 4 straight winning seasons. So good days for Northridge football, might I say. Is it becoming a football school? I know Coach Radiger may not like to hear that, but hey, Raider football, guys.
Before we get back to the Panthers of Northwood, I want to just correct myself about Chad Epley. This will be his second season. He went 10-5 in his first season. All right, so Northwood's up next, coached by Nate Andrews. Coach Andrews has an overall record of 103 wins, 67 losses in his 9th season at Northwood. All right, so last year they went 5-5 overall, 4-3 in their conference. Some key games, memorable things. They lost a close overtime game to Concord. They beat Northridge in the regular season, and then, of course, they lost in the sectional opening round. Offensively, they put up 24 points per game, 117 rushing yards, and quite impressive 220 yards through the air. Defensively, they gave up about 20 points per game, 198 rushing yards, and 109 yards through the air. They're losing nine key seniors. They're returning honorable mention conference Caden Lone. He's a senior quarterback. They're also bringing back all NLC J.J. Payne, who brings the pain on both sides of the ball, wide receiver and DB. All NLC linebacker and running back Ethan Evers. And then all NLC wideout Tyron Tuggle. Apologies for not knowing how to pronounce his name. Newcomers, you could be on the lookout for Trevor Barrett. Also, Troy Cutter, senior tight end and linebacker. Offensive system, the Panthers run a multiple formation attack. Defensively, they run a 3-4. They got some experience in the key up front, in the middle, and secondary. Schedule-wise, they open up with Jimtown, which is always a competitive game. Concord and Warsaw come to Andrews Field this year. And then the revenge tour for the Panthers, they travel to Northridge and Mishawaka. I see them getting one of those games in the revenge tour. Big picture-wise, I think this could be Northwood's year to really make some noise both in the regular season and postseason. They have the skilled players coming back, all NLC type players. Really, I think I'm excited to see them air out the football again. Can they stay healthy? I think is always a question, of course. They may benefit from their schedule and that the top teams are coming, most of them are coming to Northwood this year. And can they play that full four quarters against Concord, Mishawaka, Warsaw? Those will be, of course, storylines to look out for. And yeah, I think another important thing is them stopping the run, just like every team in this conference. But yeah, so I think this is an exciting year for Northwood.
Before we get to the buy and sell, I want to do a fact check on Northridge. I mentioned that Northridge Raiders have a chance to win 4 in a row in 2023, pending that they have a winning season in 2022, and that would match their all-time record from 1974, and I said 1971, and obviously that doesn't make sense. I meant to say from 1974 to 1977, so I just wanted to put that in there. Okay, so buy and sell, Aaron. Northwood will be explosive on offense this year. All conference studs up and down the roster. Northwood scored more than 40 points 3 times last year. Are you buying or selling that Northwood scores 40 or more points 5 or more times this year?
I will buy that. Yeah, they're going to do that. I think that's what this team is, probably one of the most explosive teams offensively. So, yeah, I'm going to buy that. They're going to put up the numbers again.
So, Aaron, you're buying the Panthers scoring 40 or more points 5 times this or more this season. Now, I'm curious, as we look at the schedule, I won't have you say which teams, but if you look at the schedule here, which 5 teams could that be? Now, if you're one of these opponents of Northwood this year, good luck with your defensive scheme, your plan, because the Panthers are coming this year. If you are a fan, you got to come out on Friday nights to watch this incredible offense put some numbers on the board. So this can be a lot of fun for the Panthers. If you are enjoying our podcast and want to donate, please find the donation link in our show notes. Any donation, no matter how small, will make a big difference in helping us bring you better quality podcast shows.
All right, now we move to Mishawaka, the Cavemen, coached by Keith Kinder. He'll be starting his 5th season with the Cavemen. His overall record as a coach is 35-13. Quick recap on the last campaign. They went 8-3 overall, 5-2 in the NLC. They took out Concord in a revenge game the first week of sectionals last year. They did, however, fall to Michigan City in the final. So offensively, they put up 39 points a game last year, 308 rushing yards, and they aired it out 45 yards per game. Defensively, they gave up about 16 points per game, 96 rushing yards, and 111 yards through the air. Key losses, they're losing 8 key seniors, including quarterback Justin Fisher, who is now at Notre Dame. They're returning all-state, all-conference, a pair of linemen in Dawson Nowacki and Tanner Parmley. Both of them play both ways. They're also returning Chase Gooden, senior running back, and junior QB Brady Fisher, who will be starting. All-conference Isaac Valdez, a defensive back, is returning for the Cavemen. And they have some 5 other seniors that are newcomers and 5 juniors who expect to make an impact. Strategy-wise, another hit you in the mouth, flex bone, run heavy, smash mouth football team. They run a multiple defensive attack. Schedule-wise, they open with Mishawaka Marion on the road. And the Knights will be looking for revenge. Then they face St. Joe at home. Both games are intriguing. Always interesting games to open the year. Key road games will be at Warsaw and Concord. And the Cavemen will be looking to avenge their only conference losses in these contests. And they also have the Raiders and Panthers coming to Steel Stadium, which have those teams close the gap. That'll be an interesting to see if that's true or not. And then the NLC schedule is a tough one that should help them get ready for sectionals. Big picture-wise, I think the Cavemen will get out of their sectional this year. On paper, they have this experience. They have the linemen. They have that experience up front. And, yeah, I think Mishawaka could easily win the NLC outright. And I think I have them in that tier 1 of teams, and then I like them to get 7 or 8 wins before sectional.
So, Aaron, you are bullish on Keith Kinder's Mishawaka Cavemen for good reason. What a job Coach Kinder has done over the years at Mishawaka. Obviously going to the state finals in 2012. So, do our buy and sell here. Last year, Mishawaka lost to Michigan City in the sectionals. Prior to that sectional loss, the Cavemen won 3 straight sectional titles. Buy or sell, Mishawaka will reclaim sectional 11 this year and win the title.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. I think this is the year that they get their 15th sectional championship. If you look at the sectional now that Michigan City's in a new one, they have a couple rebuilding teams in there, and then Concord, who I think isn't quite at that level, but they will be a tough team in postseason. So, yeah, I'm buying Mishawaka.
I would agree with you. Concord, we're going to get to them, I believe, next. They obviously have lost a lot of production from last year, especially on both sides of the defense offensive lines. But never count out the Minutemen, especially when you have a head coach like they do and the staff that they do. They will only get better as the season goes on, and you never know. It could be a competitive game in the sectional. Let's forecast beyond the sectional just for fun here. There's 2 teams in Fort Wayne Snyder and Fort Wayne Dwenger. Dwenger, the stronger of the 2. I like Dwenger to come out of sectional 12. Sectional 11 and 12 play each other, so that'd be Mishawaka and Dwenger in the regional. And that would be a fun game. Dwenger's a run-heavy team, just like Mishawaka, although they do pass more than Mishawaka does. If Mishawaka happened to beat Wenger, then you look at the semi-state, and you got Valparaiso, who's been really good last 3 or 4 years or so, and then the Rising Hot team in Maryville Pirates. They made a nice run last year, I think the semi-state, and would probably face one of those two teams. Okay, that wraps it up for the Mishawaka Cavemen football team.
All right, we move on to Warsaw, the Tigers, coached by Bart Curtis, and this is his 5th season leading the Tigers. He has an overall record of 232 wins and 114 losses. 5th season at Warsaw. Last year they went 7-3 overall and 6-1 in the conference. They were close to being conference champions, but they lost to Concord the last game of the regular season. And then they lost to Carroll in the sectional. Offensively, they averaged 32 points a game, 319 rushing yards, and 27 passing yards. Defensively, they gave up 18 points per game, 90 rushing yards, and 124 passing yards. They have some key losses, 9 linemen that include Isaiah Courtois. I probably got that wrong, sorry. It's going to Iwu, and Kyle Dawson going to Taylor. Also losing Julius Jones, running back, D-back, to St. Francis. So losing some players to the NAIA. And Aiden Binkard, linebacker, going to Iwu as well. Returning, they have Tucker Curtis, a senior quarterback. Jermaine Flores Ortega, a senior running back, is returning. Brock Farley, a senior at center. And Ashton Chilcutt, senior tackle. Key returners on the defense, seniors Russ Winchester and Kyle Schackenberg up front. In the middle, you have all-conference seniors Johnny Brewitt and Nicholas Cadis, who are really good linebackers. Secondary, they have all-conference senior Theodore Kateris and fellow seniors Trey Kuntz and Morgan Johnson. Strategy-wise, they run the flex bone, run heavy, another team that will test you for full 4 quarters. And then on the defensive side, they run a 30 multiple attack. So, yeah. Schedule-wise, they open up with a tough team in Michigan City, who are led by an all-area and all-state running back, Jaden Hart. Then another tough 5A team in Chesterton will have a new starting quarterback, and that's all before their NLC schedule. They'll have 2 road games at Concord and Northwood after they open with Plymouth for the NLC. And then they get Mishawaka at home, and they end the season in Middlebury. Big picture-wise, Coach Curtis likes his team, and if they take care of the me, or forget the me and take care of the we, they can be a championship caliber team by November, which I think is, on paper, it's clear that they're a favorite in the NLC. I have them in the top tier, and they could win this conference outright. So that means I have them grabbing 7 or 8 wins before sectional. They have some experience coming back and also some players looking to leave their mark in the program. They are in a brutal sectional 2. With Carroll, Elkhart, and Penn, I mean, well, we were just talking. We not sure who the favorite is, but I like Warsaw. I think a good solid team to keep your eye on.
Well, when I think of a team that is coached by Bart Curtis, I have followed him from his New Prairie days, and he's a winner, and there's a reason for that. He coaches for the right reasons. He coaches the right way. His players respect him, and no doubt in my mind that he is the reason why Warsaw won a sectional in 2019, the only sectional championship in the entire history of Warsaw Tiger football. They've been playing football since 1901, so that should say something about that. So let's get into the buy or sell. Last year, Warsaw struggled against teams with good quarterback play. In fact, they were 1-3 record-wise against those 4 teams. You had Fisher from Mishawaka. They actually won that game. Warsaw did. The other 3, they lost. Dutton from Concord, Becker from Carroll, and Bush from Michigan City. This season, the Tigers will face Bush again from Michigan City, Northwood's Caden Lone, and Tag Gott of Northridge. Are you buying or selling that Warsaw will go 3-0 against these 3 teams?
I'm going to sell, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did go 3-0 against these teams. I could see them slipping up at one time. I think it's just a brutal schedule. So, yeah, I'm going to sell it. I'll probably be wrong, but
Okay, I'm gonna press you a little bit and not let you off the hook. I'm going to ask you to give me the team that you think that Warsaw will lose to. Which one of these 3? Northwood, Northridge, or Michigan City?
I'm going to go with Michigan City.
Okay. Going with the Wolves.
I think, opening with that type of game is the one they could slip up with.
So, as we wrap up Warsaw Tigers, there is a 3-game stretch in the middle of the season that is absolutely crucial if they're going to have a successful campaign, especially when you talk about the NLC. And that is games 4, 5, and 6, starting with Concord. That's a road game. It's always hard to win at Concord. And then they go on the road again in week 5 at Northwood. Again, that's a tough environment. Northwood, we already talked about them. Very good offense. And then you have Warsaw hosting, which I think possibly will decide the NLC and probably the game of the season for the NLC conference, and that is Warsaw and Mishawaka. Okay, folks, that is the Warsaw Tigers.
All right, we got our last team from the NLC, the conference champions a year ago, the Concord Minutemen, coached by Craig Kohler, who has a 51-23 winning record, starting his 8th season with the Minutemen. So like I was saying, they went 9-2 last year with their conference championship after going 4-4 in 2020. So what a turnaround for this program. They would end up losing to Mishawaka in the sectional, like we mentioned. They averaged 29 points a game, 79 rushing yards, and 206 passing yards. Defensively, they gave about 14 points a game. Key losses, they're losing quite a bit. 15 starters and 6 going on to the college level for football, including Hunter Dutton, quarterback at Trine, Zavin Kultukin, linebacker, is going to play at Colgate. Returning, they have All-State and All-Conference Armand Kultukin, sorry if I'm getting that wrong, senior linebacker who may also be starting at quarterback or running back, so I'm sure that's probably decided as the time of recording. They also bring back Titus Hackworth, a senior running back who was all-conference honorable mention. Another honorable mention on the O-line, Mackay Hall and Lance Army, both seniors. They also return all-state punter and kicker, which he's a big weapon, Miguel Aguilar. And then Lance Army leads the front four, while Kultukin leads the linebackers, and another important linebacker is James Lewis, who's a senior. Secondary, they have Deshaun Emerson, Darren Decker, and Juan Ross, all seniors, leading the secondary. On offense, look for Concord to spread the rock around, airing it out. It'll be interesting to see who got the nod at starting quarterback. They have some inexperienced players at wide receiver, but senior Darren Decker will look to lead the way as he leads that group of the field. And then the backfield, I would say, is a strength with the three senior running backs. Defensively, they run a 4-3 and only 3 starters returning.
So I'm going to chime in here. I think this is a precarious situation for the Minutemen. I can't think of a time, it's been a while, where you literally the wide receiver core is unproven. The leading receiver, I think, has 1 catch for like 25 yards. That's unheard of for Concord. Usually there's always, some production returning. As you just mentioned, the running back is the most experienced, skilled offensive player coming back. It'll be interesting to see, knowing the history of Concord and how efficient they usually are in passing. The big question is, how fast can these new wide receivers come to fruition and make plays, and kind of put some confidence in throwing the ball. Will Concord run the ball more early in the season to allow the quarterback to get comfortable and more confidence? I imagine you probably see more simple play calling, easier, simple routes. And then, as they get better throughout the season, open the playbook a little more and that kind of stuff. So, very interesting with Concord this year on offense, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think their coach has mentioned to the media that they'll probably go through some growing pains early. The team to watch out for in the postseason, they always seem to, surprise, depending on the year, of course. Let's see, their schedule. So they open with Elkhart, so always an interesting matchup. Then they travel to Bago to face Jimtown. And then Concord is looking to make it 4 straight wins over Jimtown. And then they open out NLC play at Northwood, which that's a big matchup. And then following week, the Warsaw Tigers come to Dunlap to face off. Both games are intriguing and have a lot of early implications for the conference race. And then week 7, they travel to Northridge. And Mishawaka will come to Dunlap as well in week 8. And then they close the season at Plymouth.
Wow, look at that schedule. It just hit me how tough those first 4 games are. Elkhart, Jimtown, Northwood, Warsaw. It's like, where do you catch your breath in those first 4 games if you're Concord? That is a tough stretch, especially for a young team that's trying to find itself, find its identity. Guys who haven't had a lot of experience being on the field and getting thrown into the lake right from the get-go. So after Warsaw, you can kind of take a little breath. No offense to Wawasee, but they're just not. They're still kind of rebuilding there. And then Goshen, and then you take a two week kind of take a deep breath there, and then you're right back with defending state runner-up Northridge and Mishawaka. That's a two game stretch right there. That's very difficult. So I look at their schedule. There's really 6 games on their schedule that is like, those are tough. It's not going to be easy, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think big picture-wise, that's no offense, I think to Concord and their great fan base. I think they're going to take a step back in the conference standings this year. I see them at 5 wins before sectional. I think that would be a pretty good season considering what they're losing.
Under Coach Kuehler's leadership since 2015, there has been a pattern developing. Now, if you're a Concord fan, you know very well what I'm talking about. 2015, the record was 8 wins to 3 losses. The following year, 2016, it went down 6 wins to 4 losses. 2017 went back up 10 wins, 2 losses. 2018 went down 6 wins, 6 losses. 2019, 8 wins, 2 losses. 2020, 4-4. 2021, 9-2. So you see the pattern. It's win a lot of games, followed by the following year is rebuilding, and then the next year is win a lot of games, followed by rebuilding. So, buy or sell, Concord will continue this pattern with good season followed by a mediocre season for 2022.
I will buy it. I think, it's just tough with where their conference is and the top-heavy teams. Yeah, I think I'm buying it. 5 wins and a possible 6th win in the sectionals if they get a good draw. But yeah, I think they're going to take a slight step back and kind of keep up with that trend, unfortunately. I'm fired up, Will. I think this will be an exciting NLC season, and of course Fairfield in their quest to repeat in their division. I like in no particular order Northwood, Warsaw, and Mishawaka as the top tier of the NLC. I could see all these teams winning outright or being a part of a 2-way or even a 3-way tie. The tier below them, I have Northridge, Concord, and Goshen kind of in the middle. I would say Northridge is probably maybe even a little bit above those two this year. With that being said, Concord is the last team to repeat as conference champions. They won the NLC from 2010 to 2013, as well as sharing it in 2012 with Plymouth. Here's a little history nugget for you, Will. Since the NLC began, 1964, 37 out of the 57 NLC champs went undefeated. So 8 years, there have been two-way ties. The last one in the 2020 season when Mishawaka and Warsaw shared it. And then there's been 3 years with a 3-way tie, which I thought was kind of fascinating. The last one was Concord, Northwood, and Wawasee. They shared the conference crown. That was back in 2004. We were still in high school. Is it possible we have one of those again? I don't know, Will. What do you think?
You know what? Good question. So I'm gonna lean no. I think there are a few games this season that if you're a local fan, high school football fan, you gotta circle on your schedule, and that's, whenever Northwood, Mishawaka, and Warsaw play each other this season, those are big-time games because they are going to settle who is going to ultimately win the NLC conference this year. Really like Northwood's offense. I think Mishawaka has probably the strongest line play in the conference. Warsaw is Warsaw. So, it's going to be an exciting season, and we'll see how it shakes out for this year. We want to wish all the coaches, players, managers, training staff, marching bands, and all the people involved with these programs a safe and great season. We would like to publicly thank the numerous football coaches for taking their time with us as we prepared content for this podcast show. Thank you for listening. Please come out on Friday night to support local high school football. There's nothing better than Friday Night Lights here in Michiana. Stay tuned next week as I preview the Northern Indiana Conference.